Hey, what's going on, everybody? Temperistic here, back again for another video, and today gonna be doing something a little unusual. Um, when I do reviews of video games, I tend to keep it just with the game review showcase. As you can see on the channel, I already posted the Halo campaign Evolve 1. However, I do tend to make exceptions if they are video games that are part of franchises that are near and dear to my heart. That includes Halo, Gears of War, Grand Theft Auto, Mass Effect, games like that. Without further ado, this is going to be my review of the newly released, not officially released because the game doesn't actually release until tomorrow, July the 28th. And because right now it's in early access, and people who have pre-ordered the game, who have got the what is it called, the like premium upgrade or whatever, they're able to play the game 5 days early. And I just finished my playthrough this morning. I also haven't really slept because I've been waiting on these window people to come in to finally fix one of our windows in here. And they have not come in, and it's been 4 hours since they were supposed to come in. So I thought before I go to bed and finally get some rest, I would, make this video while it's still kind of fresh in my mind. And I just finished doing my draft and everything, kind of typing up all my thoughts. And yeah, let's just get into it here. So let's see, pros and cons. Should we do the cons first? Should we do the pros? I think we're gonna do it differently than most. And we're gonna do the cons first. Okay. Also, sorry if I'm not aligned here. I don't know. There's something going on with my camera that's kind of weird, where it's not on the center of my monitor, but I'm like more centered than if it would be on the middle of my monitor. I don't know. It's weird. It's a brand new smart camera, something something, kind of weird name. But it's very good. It produces its own light. Like right now, it's really dark in my room, and you can't even tell because of the lighting on the camera. That's why I had to close my blinds, because I was getting some on this side, I was getting like some Twilight action going on. But enough about me. Let's talk about Halo. So, yeah, let's do the cons first. Let's get the negative stuff out of the way. So to begin, you open up the game, you start it. I should also say that, I mean, this goes without saying. This is going to be a spoiler review. I'm not one of those people that does two different reviews, one that's spoiler free and one that's not. You should assume that I finished the game, so I mean, I'm not going to show any gameplay or cutscenes or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about it. So if you're cool with that, then I'm going to talk about the cutscenes. I'm going to talk about the gameplay and all that. If you don't want to be spoiled at all, then click away. I'm not going to feel any kind of different way about it. And keep it a surprise for yourself when the game comes out tomorrow. So you've been warned. Here we go. You start up the game, boot it up, you see Halo Studios, Microsoft, all the cool stuff. And then you go to your settings, you're going to tailor the game to your liking, how you want it. Do you want a vibration on or off? What do you want your sensitivity? Yada yada, the whole thing. Let's say that I start playing the game and I notice some kind of glitch, some kind of bug. It's in early access. Now, having said that it's in early access, know that early access does not mean the game should have bugs in it, or it should have glitches in it, or it should have missing content in it, because early access just means that you're able to play the game early. This isn't an alpha. This isn't a beta. Charlie, Foxtrot, Gamma, all that stuff. The game is gold, which means it's finished. It's done. There's this isn't like another beta. And why I'm starting out saying that is because when you pause the game, you can. There's a little section where you press a button. I forget. I think it's like X or something on the Xbox controller. I forget what it is. But you press a button and it brings up this screen where you can report a problem, report a bug, or whatever. Now, my only issue with this is, unlike previous Halo games where you can, just report a bug within game and it brings up a screen. It's just like if you report something on the Xbox dashboard, they're going to ask you a couple questions. Is it because of cheating? Is it because of harassment? Things like that. Unfortunately, this time around, they want you to scan a QR code or they want you to click on the website link, which is, yeah, not good. I firmly believe that in every single video game, if they're going to have a system where you can report issues with a game, it should just be a quick report the issue. Like why do I need to go to a separate website to tell you what the issue is? The Xbox has a keyboard, a digital keyboard that pops up. I have no issue using my analog stick to pick the letters and say what I want to say. It's just, so that kind of grinded my gears right off the bat. Next, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is sprint. Yes, you can. Now, I'm not saying sprint is a con, but it just doesn't really fit with Halo 1. You can turn it off with the skull that you find at the beginning of the game before any shots are fired or whatever. Once Master Chief gets out of his cryopod, you can jump on top of it, and then there's a little ledge on the right that you can jump on, and the skull's right there that can turn sprint off for you. So you just press pause, save and quit. That's another thing you can. I can't remember if it was in the original, but you can press start and save and quit. You don't have to wait for a checkpoint or anything like that. So you go back to the main menu, you turn on the no sprint skull, and then there you go. Unfortunately, you cannot turn off sprint in the settings, which I think is an issue because, not everybody is going to go on the internet, go on YouTube, and, type in where is the sprint school, and a lot of people might be under the impression that you can just turn it off in the settings, but you can't. Talking more about sprint, the biggest issue for me and a lot of people is that you can skip entire encounters with sprint. The enemies in this game are not fast enough to keep up with you when you're sprinting. There's also no cooldown on sprinting. You can sprint across the whole entire map without getting tired, which of course is lore accurate because you're a Spartan. Um, with the flood, I don't believe that Master Chief, as fast as he is, should be able to sprint away from the flood, and not get hit at all. Especially with how horrible the AI is in this game, you can just skip entire encounters, and it just ruins the whole entire point of the game. Um, Also, they, in their minds, 343 Industries or Halo Studios, they think that by making it to where if you get shot by any kind of plasma weapon while you're sprinting and it turning it off, that then balances the addition of sprint right then and there, which it doesn't. It just turns it off once you get shot, and it just seems a little lazy. Um, Also, if you've played zombies in, Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 2, you know that you can, train zombies. And basically, for anyone that doesn't know, training zombies means that have, 10 or 20 of them chase you. And then once you dodge them a couple times, they will form a single file line, and you can just take them all out right then and there. It's a popular strategy that a lot of zombie players have done in the past. So yeah, you can do that in this game. You just have a bunch of flood forms, whether it be Covenant or Human, chase you, and once you dodge them a couple times with Sprint, which is easy to do because, like I said, they can't keep up with you. Um, when you are sprinting, you just turn around and fire at them with. I mean, it's not as easy as it would be in Call of Duty Zombies, because all you have to do is shoot the zombies in the head in Call of Duty and they're dead. Whereas the Flood are a little bit more tanky, but it's still the same premise. Even on Legendary, you can skip entire encounters, which kind of defeats the whole entire purpose. Um, And definitely for the lasso players, I'm sure they're going to say that it's going to feel less satisfying having beaten the game with all schools on and not dying when you can just skip complete portions of the game with sprint, especially like I said, with how horrible the AI is in this game. A lot of times their reaction time is so slow they don't even notice you. I had so many encounters with elites where they would just like turn their back to me, or I would kill their ally right next to them, and they wouldn't even react to it. So I would just walk up to them, hit them in the back, and they're dead. Moving on from that, um, yeah, I think the AI is just really unfinished in this game. Um, yeah, they just don't react how we expect enemies to react in Halo games. They don't put pressure on the Master Chief really whatsoever in this remake. So I don't know what happened when they were making this game. It's just way too easy. So yeah, let's talk about the missed opportunities within this game. They didn't add any of the cut content, like the wildlife, on the bigger maps, like the second Halo level, which would be perfect for wildlife. We do know that Halo Studios has access to all of the cut content from Halo 1 and Halo 2 specifically, so if they wanted to, they could. I'm not sure why they did that. It definitely seems like, especially with the cutscenes, they removed more than they added into this game, unless we're talking about the weapons. Another big deal is that there's no unlockables in this game that you can get just by playing the game. Even if you beat this game on Legendary with all skulls on and not dying, you get nothing except a achievement and a little pat on the back. The only skins that you can get in this game are the ones that you get for pre-order in the game, which of course they are terrible looking skins, very lazy. Um, yeah, kind of interesting. I wanted to talk about the levels individually, which I have them all written out after I do the pros and cons. But I do really have to speak on one level that is very horribly done, which is the keys level. It's the second to last level before you get to the maw. It's the level where you punch Captain Keys in the face. You get his code, give it to Cortana, and he becomes a proto grave mine. It starts out well, but towards the end, or not towards the end, but towards the middle, when you drop down, there's a little gap there, and you drop down into the green goop lake, if you want to call it that. Right after that, it's just kind of a mess. I mean, it is a mess. It's supposed to be a mess because you have the Covenant fighting at the Flood at the same time that you're trying to do your own thing. You're trying to do your mission, and you don't want to get caught in the middle of it, but you end up getting caught in the middle of it because that's just how it's designed. In this one, it's a little bit more chaotic, a bit more RNG. There's just some things that didn't make any sense, but I'm gonna get into that when I do the levels individually. So I just had to add that to the cons. I think Keys is probably the worst video game level I've ever seen in a video game, and that's saying something since I've been playing video games for 30 years. Yeah, next thing, camo doesn't work in this game. There's two pickupables in this game. I actually do like the way they did it in this game, where instead of walking through it, just like in Halo 2, it automatically goes on to you, and the timer starts. And right when you go through an overshield, you get the shield. Right when you go through the camo, you turn invisible. This time it's a pickupable, where it goes into your item inventory, and then with the press of a button, you can use it whenever you want. That's definitely a W. However, the camo just doesn't work in this game. Um, it's a little like Reach, where if you're moving too fast, if you're sprinting, it kind of comes off of you. So I do understand that, because this is, even though this is Halo 1 remake, it's more like Halo 1 with the Reach game on top of it. Um, so a lot of this stuff, a lot of the functionality is going to, it's going to work just like it did in Reach. So camo isn't going to be like how it was in Halo 1, where you can, move as fast as you want, even though you don't have enough sprint in Halo 1, and no one's going to notice you. The camo won't come off. Um, Even when you're moving very, very slowly, the enemies around you will start shooting you, and they'll see you like you're not wearing camo. This is a known issue. I believe they're working on it, but still, the game came out. Why is this? It's just like, why? How did this make it past playtesting? I just don't understand. Especially with how many times you can pick up camo in the game. Overshield works pretty well. The invincibility is there. When you pick it up, let's say someone sticks you with a plasma grenade, you can activate it. That will protect you. You have the couple seconds of invincibility. It feels a little weaker than it did in Halo 1, but not by much. Um, what else? Yeah, so probably my biggest issue with the game is I'm of course playing on the Xbox Series X, and the audio cuts out a lot while in a game. Luckily, it didn't happen in the cutscenes, so I was able to enjoy those to the fullest extent. But yeah, when I'm playing, especially when there's a lot of enemies around, I notice the music and the audio just starts getting choppy, cutting in and out. I would say out of 100%, it happened. Oh, not 50% of the time, maybe 35% of the time, but it was definitely noticeable, and it ruined the immersion big time. Um, and it's definitely going to affect the score that I give it at the end of this video. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure how it is on PlayStation 5 or Pro. I'm not sure how it is on PC, but it's a big issue for me on Series X. Next thing, yeah, no health packs. I mean, if we're gonna do a remake of Halo 1, let's not change, uh, how the game works. I understand that you're gonna be reusing Reach assets, but even in Reach, we had health packs. Even in multiplayer, we had health packs. So why is the health be tried? I just don't get why they did that. Next up, yeah, not really a con, but I felt like adding it here because again, it just ruins the this is Halo 1, and we're changing things to where it's like getting away from the original, and this is supposed to be a remake. Why are we changing so many things? But yeah, those big fat grunt flood forms that explode and release the flood. When they're next to frag grenades or plasma grenades on the ground, they don't set them off. Which, yeah, it's annoying when you die because of that, but it kind of caught me off guard, especially on the keys level when there's so much going on, so much chaos, and right as you're going to find keys, there's that big fight between the high-ranking Flood and high-ranking members of the Covenant, where you have the exploding fuel rods of the grunts, um, and then you have which are also not in the game, but I'm not gonna give them flack on that because they're giving us the fuel rods to use in this game, which would make sense why the energy swords and the fuel rods don't explode, so we can pick them up. Another thing I want to say: no flamethrower. We had the flamethrower in multiplayer in Halo 1, and for some reason they decided not to put it in the game. Like I said, another missed opportunity. Especially on the library or Guilty Spark, it would have been perfect for a flood level to have the flamethrower. Um, yeah, so I kind of touched on this with the horrible AI, but this version of Halo 1 is a lot easier than the original. Um, you know, just feels like the enemies don't deal as much damage as I mean I'm only playing the game on normal, but even on the original Halo 1, I die a lot on each level. I'm not very good at single player games. I'm much better when I do PvP. Um, but besides the keys level, and like I said, I'll touch on that before, where I died a lot. Um, it wasn't because of the difficulty of the enemies or anything they were doing. And yeah, this game just really felt like a cakewalk. Um, I just I don't know. The enemies just are dumb. No awareness, no reaction time, missing their shots. Yeah, so this game was very easy. Definitely an L there. Yeah, along the lines of the audio cutting out while playing, the audio levels are also not in sync, and what I mean by that is like I will be shooting my gun, or the music will be playing, and I can't hear the voice lines of Cortana or other people, even when they're right next to me. So that, I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but there were certain times where, especially on the library, where Guilty Spark, he talks a lot when he's showing you where to go and helping you get through the level. There's a lot of times where I can't hear him through the flood, making the noises. So I'm not sure what was up with that. I didn't have any issues. I've never had any issues in any Halo game with you know I have a hard time hearing the voice actors or whatever. Everything is usually in sync, and the levels I never have to adjust them. But I guess I should have done it. So yeah, I guess that's my biggest tip going into the game. You should probably adjust the leave the voice at 100%, but decrease the ambient sounds a little bit. Decrease um the I guess the gameplay sound. I'm not sure. I'm not. I wouldn't decrease the master control because that would also decrease the voice. But tinker with a little bit. Obviously you can put on subtitles, but it's also nice to hear what to hear the voice with the subtitle. Yeah, so let's talk about more missed opportunities with the game. No PvP. I really like how the game feels with the aesthetics, the guns, the pistol, the battle rifle, the assault rifle. They sound and feel powerful. This game would have been a phenomenal PvP game. This is what I've been wanting since, Halo 2 with just how everything looks and feels. I think they did a really nice job on that, which it just hurts me even more. There's no PvP, there's no firefight, there's no scoring. Even on the Master Chief Collection, you can set somebody on your friends list as a rival, and you can compete with your friend and try to get a better score, a better time. So there's no scoring, no timing, anything like that. It's just a campaign mode, and yeah, you can do online co-op, but that's about it. Let's talk about the voice acting here. So, Steve Downs, Jen Taylor, they're phenomenal voice actors. They did what they could in this game. I 100% know for a fact that Halo Studios were in their ears the whole entire time, telling them, how to talk, when to talk, and all that. And this 100% is, I don't, whoever. I know they outsourced this game to a studio that I can't even remember. And yeah, but the voice acting, it felt forced. A lot of weird pause. You're gonna notice a lot of weird pauses in the cutscenes, in between iconic lines. A lot of, I don't know if they're just trying to break the fourth wall, especially with Sergeant Johnson. He's looking at the camera and smiling a good amount of the times, especially in the prequel missions, which was kind of weird. It's like we know how iconic these voice lines are in the script. We don't need the characters to, you know, to give us weird facial expressions and smile. And yeah, I don't know what they were going for there. There was just weird pauses in between a lot of the lines. They were trying to add, more of a theatrical effect, but it just didn't need it. So um yeah, the Marines, they don't react when doing jumps in the hog. I know it's a little nitpicky, but especially when you get into the hog for the first time on the second level, the Halo level, and foe hammer comes down after you see the other escape pods from Pillar Autumn go over. We're about to go into the Forerunner facility, activate the hard light bridge, and get to the other side to rescue some Marines. And she drops on the Warthog, you get into it, and there's a couple bumps, and of course, you see some bumps in your Warthog, you're gonna go over them, you're gonna try to pick up some air, and I do that a couple times, and the Marines are just like, just nothing. Nothing. No voice lines, no, fist punching the air and going "Yeehaw," nothing. Um, so that was kind of disappointing. And then the last thing that I have on my con list here is that the levels didn't account for players having access to more powerful weapons that we didn't have in the original, like the energy sword, sentinel beam, fuel rod. And what I mean by that is, yeah, a lot of the time, especially when getting the fuel rod, they give you a lot of ammo for the fuel rod. And wow, does that fuel rod just tear through enemies? And what they could have done is they could have added more beefy enemies. They could have added, we have that new flood tank form that looks like a hunter if it was a flood. They could have added that to tank more of the fuel rod shots. They could have added more enemies. Something, I like that we're able to use new weapons in that we are able to use in previous Halo games that we didn't use in the original, but it just makes the game even easier than it was. Maybe I wouldn't have an issue with it if the AI wasn't so bad, but I have an issue with it. Okay, let's move on to the pros here. Sorry for all that negativity. Had to get that out of the way first. So let's just talk about the Warthog. Wow, the physics on the Warthog are realistic as hell. I mean, this is the best Warthog we've ever had, hands down. Um, in 2001 when they let us use the Warthog for the first time, it was very stiff, very hard to move and everything. But yeah, a lot of the times while I'm in the air, it feels like I kind of have a little air directional control. The Warthog is bouncy, it's smooth, it's fast, it's just a lot of fun to drive. Next thing I did like on the second level, and but second level specifically, they added the Jackal snipers with the beam rifles that weren't there in the original. Especially when you are going to rescue some of the Marines that are in the rocks on that part, and then all the dropships start coming down. And, there's like what 6 or 7 waves of dropships coming down. You'll see these Jackal snipers on the rocks, and it just I don't know. It was eye pleasing to see them, even though they're really easy to take out, especially because for the whole entire level you have the sniper rifle, the S7 sniper. It was just cool to see that they um, oh yeah, yeah. I mean that's another weapon we have is the beam rifle that we didn't have because it didn't exist in Halo One. But they use these new weapons and they're like, hey, well, we're giving the player this. Let's put the Jackal snipers there too. So that was really cool. Vehicle effects when exploding are very eye pleasing, especially with the Wraith. When you take down a Wraith, oh my god, the plasma inside of it just oozes out like a gusher. And I mean, the Ghost is cool, but I mean, the Wraith, even the Banshee when it explodes, just the plasma goes. It's just very realistic, very phenomenal. Whoever's in charge of the effects with frag grenades exploding, plasmas. That's another thing. The plasma in this game, whether it be a drop ship shooting down from the sky and it hitting the ground, you can see the plasma droplets when it hits the ground go everywhere. It leaves a mark on the ground. I mean, it's just fantastic. The jumping is so much better in this game. Jumping in the original is very stiff. There'd be times when you would get on something and you were trying to, leap off of a ledge onto another ledge, and even though you timed it right, they call it the coyote effect. Is a term I learned, especially when I played Fall Guys when it came out. There was a glitch that happened, and it pissed a lot of people off for a while. It was the coyote effect, where you would jump when you were supposed to jump, but because of an issue with the game, you would have to jump sooner, and that's what would happen in Halo One. But yeah, no, the jumping is perfect in this game. Just had to mention that. Now let's talk about Master Chief and Cortana. Now, Master Chief in this game, um, great, phenomenal. They did add a few extra voice lines for him, which I think was necessary, especially in the original missions. In the prequel missions, it's I'm not sure how to feel about it with him and Sergeant Johnson. I know they're buddy buddy, but it's only 1 year before the events of Halo 1, and they're making it seem like he's, 10 or 20 years younger, which was, kind of weird, but I mean, I did kind of enjoy it. It's just like in Halo Infinite when the weapon asks him if he likes the tank and he says, "Oh, I like it." It's not something that Master Chief would usually say, but for, a comedic effect, they add it. So, it's okay. But once you play the prequel missions, you'll get what I'm saying. Um, Now Cortana, she's a little bit more leaning toward not being good. I know a lot of people have an issue with how she looks. I personally think she looks fine. Um, it looks like they took the Halo 4 version of her and combined it with the Halo 1 and colored her blue when she's actually purple and green in the original. Um I thought she looked okay. I didn't really have too much of an issue with her. Um if anything, it's during the cutscenes when once again she's, pausing for dramatic effect when saying her lines. And once again, nothing against Jen Taylor. She's doing her job, you know. Uh, but yeah, she seemed, especially during moments when you know Cortana is supposed to sound concerned or sound mad, talking about assault on the control room and two betrayals. They just could have done it a little differently. Um, but anyway, yeah, yeah. Like I said, best Halo graphics and aesthetics uh, ever. I put ever. I don't know if it's the best aesthetics ever. I would say Halo 2 has the best aesthetics ever. But graphics, yeah, best graphics ever. Everything moves, feels phenomenal. There wasn't a moment where my audio might have been glitching out, but I didn't have any lag whatsoever. The FPS, I didn't have any droppage of FPS during the game. My game didn't crash a single time, so W there. Good job, guys. Yeah, gorgeous levels and sound, especially on um I mean, all of them, but any level where you can look at the scenery for miles and miles, talking about Halo, talking about the truth and reconciliation, the silent cartographer, especially at the beach, and you can hear the water, you see all these crabs. Yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about. For some reason, they have crabs hidden throughout the levels, so. I don't think I looked through the achievement list. I didn't see any achievement for finding all the crabs. But yeah, if you want to go out and look, especially on the first level Pillar of Autumn, you'll notice that there is a crab in one of the cryo pods for whatever reason. Crabs are the main Easter egg for this game, so look out for those. Um, but yeah, the levels and the sounds, there's certain points on levels where you can hear like owls or birds, just very ambient sounds that echo throughout the map. Just very well done. Yeah, like I said, each weapon was fun to use. There wasn't a gun where I was like, this gun sucks. This gun doesn't shoot how it's supposed to shoot. I thought I was gonna have an issue with the assault rifle being 36 rounds instead of 60. No. Actually, I think they tuned it just fine. I actually don't even know if they tuned it at all. It sounded just like the Halo 1 version. It's been a while since I played Halo 1, so I don't exactly remember how powerful and how many bullets it takes to take down a elite, but with 36 shots, if I placed them right, I could take down an elite, and I had like 8 or so left to take out a grunt or deal a little bit of damage to another elite. So yeah, whoever worked on the weapons, phenomenal job. They worked fantastically. Yeah, so 3 awesome new missions. Gonna like I said, I have them after I talk about the main missions of the, original game, but, I enjoyed them. I thought they were really well done. I wish they were a little bit longer, but of course, we wish the new stuff was a little bit longer, but I thought they were very well done. Um, they didn't seem rushed at all, and, it definitely felt like a fan service. Yeah, but with the AR and the pistol combo, I thought they stayed true to the original. The pistol, it felt powerful, it sounded powerful. I believe it was a 4 shot to the head when shooting an elite on normal. I'm not sure how it is on the other ones, other difficulties. But yeah, they did a good job. Another pro. Some levels they more than others they made ambitious changes to them. Especially library, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I felt like even though some of them might have been a mistake. I felt like at the end of the day, it made the game feel newer. It felt fresher. Having a new way to complete the level. I thought that taking a chance like that. Um, I do respect it. I appreciate it. Yeah, amazing updated cutscenes. Blur Studios is nowhere to be found in this game, but Halo Studios says, we can make phenomenal cutscenes too. I know a lot. There's a decent amount of people who are kind of upset that they're not made in engine, meaning that you can't do silly stuff like throw a plasma grenade on the ground before a cutscene happens and then it kills the chief and the cutscene still plays. Or the most popular one is, I believe, Assault on the Control Room, where you have 2 banshees flying around the Master Chief. I'm not sure how they get that done, but there's 2 flying around the Master Chief. Eventually, one of them splatters the Chief, and the cutscene keeps rolling. But yeah, these cutscenes are absolutely phenomenal, especially the last cutscene before the ring blows up, with Master Chief getting into the ship. I mean, phenomenal, phenomenal. Um, yeah, remix. So the only mode they kind of have in this game is remix mode. Basically, you boot it up. You don't have to have any skulls found in order to do it. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it only unlocks after you beat the game, though, because I don't remember seeing it before starting the game, and noticed it immediately after it kicked me back to the main menu after beating the game. But I booted it up. Right away, it already has 3 skulls set. If I'm remembering it, I believe one skull makes it to where the enemies are randomized, meaning that on the Pillar of Autumn you can fight Flood, on the Pillar of Autumn you can fight Brutes. The other one randomizes the guns as well, so instead of the first gun you find being like a pistol on Pillar of Autumn, there's a Sentinel Beam, which you obviously shouldn't have access to yet. And then the third one, I think, made it to where enemies can't fight each other, which actually makes sense because if a brute and a flood is next to each other, they're going to be fighting each other. So that actually adds the difficulty to the player there. So if you do find that the game is too easy, like I did, and you want to add the difficulty, there you go. You can remix it up. And with every new school that you find, you can turn it on. You can turn on how many ever schools you want, and there's your replayability there. A fun one is to make yourself go into third person. I tried it out. It was actually a lot of fun. Very cool. Um, yeah, so they had a lot of accessibility here, and I know a lot of people have issues with hit markers and the game kind of holding your hand. But at the end of the day, you got to remember that they're not for us; they're for people who are maybe they have issues with their eyesight, issues with their hearing. So next time you see a lot of options like this, instead of making a big deal out of it, just go to your settings, turn them off, because because of these accessibility options, they allow people, to play the game when they might not be able to because of issues. So anyway, with that being said, I did turn off hit markers. I don't want that. I don't like that. However, I did initially say to myself, I'm gonna turn off everything, but then I'm like, you know what? How about we play the game how Halo Studios intended us to play the game? So I'm like, fuck it. I left the waypoints on. I left the weapon loot waypoints on. I left the enemy markers on, and it actually was a pretty good experience. Um, the only issue with the enemy markers is they pop up on the camo elites before you even see them, so it kind of ruins the experience there. The weapon loot waypoints, they really, I don't know. I don't know if they're glitchy, if they're not working properly. But once an enemy like dropped a gun, it would show up for a second and then disappear. So I'm not sure about that. Didn't really impact my playthrough too much. The waypoints actually were a W, especially on the first prequel mission. You if you watch, you can look at the video on the channel right now. For like a good minute, I had nowhere to go. I killed all the enemies, and I was like, "Where am I supposed to go now?" There was a door. I couldn't unlock it. I'm like, "Okay, maybe there's somewhere I have to jump or whatever." The funny thing was, I had to walk up to the ship, and then the cutscene would play. If I didn't turn on Waypoint, I would have had no idea I was supposed to do that. So the Waypoint definitely helped out there. Okay, so let's start out with the individual levels here. So Pillar of Autumn, I don't really have anything to say. It is actually a remake of the original Pillar of Autumn. They didn't, as far as I know, they didn't change a single thing. It's exactly as we remember it. Dedicated servers. So yeah, I got nothing else to say. Pillar of Autumn, good job, same as the original. Um, yeah, Halo. So an interesting thing with the Banshees now. I don't know about you guys when you play the original, but one of my favorite things to do at the beginning of this level is pull out my pistol, and I think it took like maybe half of the ammo on the pistol or maybe it took the whole pistol magazine but you would be able to blow up one of the Banshees with a magazine, and then the other one with the other magazine. But wow, holy cow, the Banshees even on normal are sponges. I mean, I must have unloaded three mag. Sorry, my God, I keep calling it clips. Clips, they're what go in your hair. Magazines. I unloaded like 3 assault rifle magazines and maybe 2 of the pistol into a Banshee before it went down. Wow, they are sponges. Um, yeah, so you'll notice in this remake, there are some cutscenes that are missing and they took out, or they like kind of, I don't know, shortened it or whatever. I'm not sure why they made the decision to take out some cutscenes, but the first one I noticed that wasn't in the game or I guess I should talk about Pillar of Autumn. When the Pillar of Autumn mission ends and you get into the escape pod, it's supposed to blast out of the Pillar of Autumn. There's kind of a skip there where you're already kind of floating in space, which is kind of weird. So yeah, there's when Master Chief goes and he turns on that hard light bridge and the camera kind of goes over it and emphasizes it. This is the first time where humans are interacting with Forerunner technology, and Bungie made it, emphasized on it. This is a big deal. They just completely cut the cutscene out. There's no cinematic for when the chief turns on the bridge for some reason. But yeah, other than that, the Halo mission, I mean, at the end, it also kind of cuts out one of the cinematics a little bit, but it didn't really rub me as bad as it did when there was no highlight bridge cutscene. And then we moved on to the Truth and Reconciliation mission, where we have to go onto the ship and rescue Keys. So another cutscene that they cut out is when you're going to the grav lift and getting beamed up to the ship. There is no cutscene for that. It's just a seamless, boop. You go up there and it opens up, and that's it. One thing I did like about the Truth and Reconciliation is it felt like a stealth mission. Once you go up into the cliffs at the beginning and you have the sniper rifle and you start picking off enemies, they don't respond unless they see the corpse that the person you just took out. They don't respond to the fire, which I thought was interesting, especially with the S7 sniper being as loud as it is. You don't have a silencer on it. But I actually kind of liked it. It making me feel stealthy, especially with the dialogue and the lore of the mission. But that's pretty much it. Uh, Scene at the end with Truth and Reconciliation. It was really cool seeing the inside of the original dropships before we had the Phantoms in Hill 2. How Keys, we saw him like using the controls and all that. That was really cool. Um, yeah, so moving on to the Silent Cartographer. I think it's the prettiest level by far, especially being on the beach, looking out at the horizon, seeing the ring in the sky, the water, the sounds, the crabs, the lighting, everything. I think it's the prettiest by far. It's really cool in the cutscene how we get to see Foehammer for the first time. And she gets some or I mean, she's always had voice lines, but she gets, she gets some screen time. You get to see her. That's very cool. Especially how she, takes out one of the dropships with her pelican um little miniature on the front of the ship. Um, yeah, the ending cutscene gets cut off. They're supposed to like get into the Pelican, fly up. Hammer's supposed to like fly around a little bit until Cortana gives her the coordinates. But nope. Once the cutscene starts playing, it just opens up um tunnel to go onto Assault on the control room. So I'm not sure why they decided to make that decision. Assault on the control room, yeah, just like Pillar of Autumn, it's a perfect remake. Other than some changes that they made to each room. Each room has been not every single room, but you'll notice like the ones that have the long hallways, those are gone. They've been redesigned. But I thought it was pretty good, and they stayed true to the original feel. Um, and then at the end, moving on to Guilty Spark, we put in Cortana into the control room, you know, terminal, whatever you want to call it, and she actually gets bigger, and she has this kind of godlike image because right away she obtains all of this knowledge, and she finds out about the flood and everything that leads on to 343 Guilty Spark, and she turns kind of gold and yellow, and it was kind of interesting. I definitely wasn't expecting that. Whereas I believe in the original, she turned maybe green, maybe a little red or something. And then as she is, um, talking to the Master Chief towards the end, right before 3 Guilty Spark starts, she shrinks down, presses a bunch of buttons and stuff. So I thought that was a little interesting. Yeah, so probably the best level of the whole entire game in terms of gameplay and feel. 3 Guilty Spark, they hit the nail on the head with making this flood mission absolutely horrifying. They knew that fans were going to be looking at this level more than any other level. They killed the lights. I mean, they made this level as dark as they could with you still being able to tell where you can go. I mean, even though you have the flashlight and everything. Yeah, absolutely horrifying level. I got goosebumps a couple times. It was very well done. They upped the scale of the feel of um of it feeling like there's another entity there, where the grunts and the jackals are being shot at, but you can't find who's shooting. You're thinking they're Marines, but there's nothing on your radar, and you can't find any Marines until you find the Marine that went crazy. And one cool thing that they added in this game about him is he has a skull. That once you kill him, the skull will drop. I don't know if you exactly have to shoot him in the head. I shot him in the head. I don't know if you melee him, the skull will drop. I assume so. But yeah, if you shoot and kill the Marine, you will be able to get the skull. I know there's quite a few people who aren't going to kill the Marines, so no skull for them. Um, yeah, the cutscene was, oh man, it was dark. It was once again horrifying. Especially when Master Chief opens the door, he actually has to grip it with his bare hands, and he has to open it forcefully. And the Marine comes out at him with his mouth wide open and his eyes open and everything, and he drags him in. And he grabs Jenkins' helmet. He gets the USB thumb drive, if you will, puts it in his helmet so we can see what happened. And they took the scene where they see the elite on the ground with his chest wide open, and they combined that with the scene where the flood actually appears. So in the same room where the Marines die, the Elite and Jackal bodies are also in that same room. So I thought that was a nice touch. And yeah, the flood come out, and the one thing that's missing from the trailer, I think they could have added, is if one of the Marines started to transform. But that's probably asking for a little bit too much. But you could hear the flood with their, I don't know, teeth or tendrils or whatever, just chomping away at the flesh of the Marines. And it ends with one of the flood just, kind of jump scaring you like a spider. And, it looks like it attacks the head of Jenkins, and it ends there. Master Chief grabs the USB out of his helmet, smash it, kind of just, with his palm, just, smashes it to dust, and then grabs his assault rifle in absolute horror and disgust, ready to take on the flood. And yeah, the gameplay was awesome. Um, Now, how can I describe the flood outside the cutscene? Very juicy, very juicy. Body parts flying off very easily. Once you kill them with a shotgun, the body disintegrates. But yeah, like I said, with the AI, they're a lot easier than the originally. Sometimes your bullets don't register on the flood. I'm not sure what that's about. Um, like sometimes I would have to shoot them up close, point blank with a shotgun a couple times for them to die. Um, and they're also not very aggressive. Usually you would have them jump at you and things like that. But I didn't feel stressed out like I did in the first one. No anxiety, and they just I mean they were coming at you, but just not with the aggressiveness that you would expect with the flood. Um, One thing I did like with the end of the level is it kind of turns into horde mode, if you know what that is from Gears of War, where you go to the end where you meet Guilty Spark, and you kind of have a standoff with the Flood and your Marines there, where the objective on the bottom right hand corner just tells you to last until you get done with the Flood, so you're there with the Sentinels, your Marines, and you just have to fend off these waves of flood. So I kind of like that. They turn it into almost a firefight with the Marines and everything. And then, um, yeah, the library starts, and the cutscene is it's kind of weird because they added something, but then they took something away. So, in the original Spark or Guilty Spark, he teleports you into the library, into the. Give me a second here. Actually, sorry. Someone might come home in a second. I don't want to be disturbed. Uh, But yeah, he teleports you into the library there in the original, but in this one, he actually teleports you outside where it's snowing. If you remember in the Halo 2, when you're playing it as the Arbiter and you get to the library, it's kind of snowing almost, at some point it looks like green snow, like maybe snow mixed with flood spores or whatever. But yeah, it's snowing hard. There's a blizzard outside of the library, and you can see the library, and he teleports you inside. But once he teleports you inside, there's no cutscene. You just start playing. So I wonder why they decided to have that on the outside, and then get rid of the cutscene from the original, where it kind of takes the camera and shows you the index, and then you go through different hallways or whatever until the camera goes to the chief with the yellow almost shield like going upness of kind of how Guilty Spark travels through the Halo ring or whatever. But that was kind of weird. So yeah, the library is kind of a mixed bag with how it plays. This is by far the most changed level from the original. I would say it is completely different from the original, but kind of in a good way, even though I prefer the original. What I mean in a good way is it felt a little fresher. Um, the rooms are smaller, but when they made it smaller, there's also less flood, and I don't really know how to feel about that. With I do prefer the more open spaceness of the original, even though it's very repetitive. And there was no like under tunnels to go through. You would have the under tunnels where some of them you could go through, you could not. There's a health pack there. Sometimes there's an overshield you could pick up. But yeah, none of that in the remake. It's just very linear rooms, small rooms. There was some switches you could press. There was kind of a mini puzzle that wasn't very difficult to do, and there was this pit of the green smoke of the flood coming up, almost telling you if you go down there you're gonna get messed up or whatever. I didn't go down there just because it didn't look like there. I looked, there wasn't really anything there other than um the flood, the spider-like flood being down there, trying to get out, and it didn't look like anything was gonna happen if I jumped down there. Maybe I should have tried it. Um, yeah. So we get this new tough tank form from Halo 3. If you remember them, they look like almost like hunters if they turn into flood, and they spit out flood. If you let the fight go on long enough, they start spitting out flood from their mouths. They do take a lot of bullets. It's not like Halo 3 where every time you shoot them in the face they get stunned or whatever. Yeah, it takes a lot of shots, and if you get hit by their arm, whoa, it will almost kill you in one shot. I'm sure on heroic, if you get hit by the arm, it will kill you in one shot. Yeah, the elevator part where you would jump on the huge elevator, and each time, it would be like a new section of the level. You would get a new title card for it. But this time it's not just like one flat elevator. It's actually the elevator from Halo 2 when you are, um, experiencing the flood for the first time as the Arbiter. It's exactly like that. Maybe a smaller version, and the flood sometimes attacks you on it, other times it didn't. But it was kind of interesting how they just basically copied and pasted the Halo 2's elevator there, instead of just having it be the original. But yeah, kind of underwhelming, especially at the end, right before you grab the index. It's the final door that Spark is opening for you, and um, he tells you to grab the index. You can see it from afar, but right in front of you, you have these, blocks, and there's a couple flood on top of them. Some have rocket launchers, and there's just tons and tons of flood coming at you. And you have to make the decision: do you want to make a final stand and fight through them, killing them all, or do you just want to bum rush it? Well, now that you have sprint, you kind of would just bum rush, and that's what I was planning to do. But there's no flood. There's no flood when he opens the final door, and I take like 2 steps out the door and the cutscene goes. I don't even have to walk up to the index. So I thought that was very disappointing, very underwhelming. Not sure why they made that decision, but okay. And then we move on to Two Betrayals, which is arguably the best mission in Halo 1. Um, where they throw the flood at you, along with the Covenant, and it's just a free for all while you're trying to, do your mission. Very easy compared to the original. Two Betrayals by far, I have died on the most on the original, and it's not even close. Um, with getting killed by, rocket launcher flood, or once you go to the generators and it knocks off your shield, getting killed that way. Um, Yeah, very easy. I actually don't know if I died on this level. I can't remember dying on this level compared to the next one on Keys, where I probably died like 20 times. Um, Also, very cool way to get the Mythic Skull on this one. This is probably the most fun you're going to have getting a skull on this game, where, once you get to the part, you have to get a Banshee, of course, and then you get to the middle platform up in the sky, where you have all these grunts that have the fuel rods, and then you have the Zealot Elite. You take them down, take all of them down, and then there's this switch in the middle of that says open door, and you're kind of scratching your head. Well, what door am I opening? The one in front of me was already green, and it opens without me hitting the switch. There's actually a door behind you that is red until you hit that switch and it turns green. You go into that room, and oh wow, you have to fight the highest ranked Covenant and Flood forms in the game, and yeah, I believe you do that a couple times, and then you will be able to get to Mythic Skull will like pop up in the middle of the generator. Speaking of the gens, it's much different in this game. You don't have to get your shields knocked off in order to destroy the gens or power them down or whatever. There's actually 3 smaller gens in a room, and they're in a triangle. They're like one here, one there, and all you do is place a well placed grenade, and it blows up the gen, no problem. And then it's also not snowing on this map like it did in the original. I mean, you can see that there's it has snowed before, but as you're playing, there's no snow falling. Just like when you get out of the forerunner structure and you're kind of climbing um it's that spot where the 2 hunters were when you were in the tank, if you know what I'm talking about, before you get into the Forerunner structure, and you're coming out, and it's right before you get to see these flood forms coming from the left attacking the Covenant, and it's just not snowing for some reason, so I'm not sure why they decided to, do that. The cutscene, what do I think about the cutscene? I think for the most part, it was, um pretty good. It was, just about the same besides, the fight between Cortana. I mean, not really a fight, but she zaps him and everything. But it was well done. Nothing much to talk about there. So yeah, we move on to keys, and once again, they take out a cutscene from the game where you're supposed to jump into the pool of green goo, and there's a little cutscene of him jumping, and no, it's just a seamless transition of you jumping. Take no. Well, that's another thing. There's like no fall damage in this game. I think there is fall damage, but you have to fall like 2 or 3 times further than you did before in order to take any damage. So once again, not sure why they made that design choice, but it is what it is. So yeah, you jump into the water pool, and then all hell breaks loose. You have to get back up to the ship and make your way through all of this chaos of the Covenant and the Flood fighting. And like I said, I think it's the worst level design I've ever seen. I understand it's supposed to be chaos, it's supposed to be crazy, but it's like more than it's supposed to be. Probably the thing that frustrated, I mean, I was cussing. It was really bad. It pissed me off. There were pieces of debris around the map that would like I couldn't get out of. Like I jumped on it and somehow I couldn't get out of it, and then I would just die from the flood. Um, Another thing, once you get to this cliff, there's supposed to be an S7 sniper rifle there. Instead, there's a jackal there, and you backsmack him, and you get the beam rifle. I don't know if this is like a joke or if Halo Studios is so dumb that they don't know the lore of their own game, but you know, plasma guns, Covenant guns, they don't do anything to the Flood for the most part, especially beam rifles. They don't do anything to the Flood. I was like, okay, sure, I'll try. Maybe it's different in this game. Nope. I shot them where the Flood tendrils were coming out of the chest. I shot the other Flood in the head, and yeah, they didn't take any damage. I couldn't kill a single enemy Flood with the beam rifle. Um, so yeah, that was kind of annoying to get through, especially with there being 2 tank Flood there, replacing the hunters that were supposed to be there. Right when I got to the grav I stood, there for 30 seconds. You'll notice when you play the campaign, the game will once there's like only 3 enemies left, or whatever, they'll put red markers above their head, and it'll show you, hey, you have to kill these enemies, and then you move on to the next thing. Maybe a cutscene will play or whatever. And yeah, I did that, and I was standing in the grav lift for 30 seconds. I was like, okay, where are the enemies? There's just nothing but flood, coming, because keys on that level at that part, the flood will keep spawning. If you don't know, they'll keep coming out of the green goo, the green juice, like whatever you want to call it. So I was standing there for 30 seconds, like fighting for my life, and I was just like, can we move on? Can we, So I don't know what the issue was with that. Once again, no cutscene. Yeah, and just tons of random debris everywhere that I would get stuck on. So I just don't know if they didn't play test their game. But moving on to the Maw. Yeah, so if Keys was the worst level I've ever seen, this is one of the best levels I've ever played in a video game. They took what made them all great in the original and they just amped it up, especially with the part where you have to get in the warthog and drive away. Um, this is gonna sound kind of weird, and you won't know what I'm talking about until you play the game. But enemies earn their spot on each section of the level. In the original, it kind of felt like they just randomly put enemies wherever. But there's actually a part where there's these two doors, and the hunters actually bust through both of them, similar to the outskirts level in Halo 2, where they knock out the big door when you first encounter them. So I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't see any camouflage flood when I went into the armory, which was kind of weird. They're supposed to be in there. However, they did fix the gens not blowing up, or the not the gens, but maybe the engines not blowing up. If you if you didn't know in the original, if you threw a plasma grenade where you're supposed to shoot a rocket or throw a frag, it actually doesn't work. This time, instead of there being like three horizontal lights, it's actually like a hole or something, and you throw a grenade, and a plasma grenade works. I tried the fuel rod; it worked. So good job fixing that. They also made Foehammer's death a bit better. Spoiler alert: Foehammer does die. You get to see her flying around before the Banshees even get to her, and being able to see, okay, she's there. We're gonna get picked up by her. Everything's gonna be good. So we get to that part, and then it happens where the Banshees are following her, shooting her down, and then you actually get to see an explosion once she turns the corner, and you don't really get to see the Pelican hitting the Pillar of Autumn, but you get to see an explosion, and the mic cuts out with her screaming, indicating that Foehammer is now dead. But yeah, man, the Warthog run was so good. It was so much better than the original. Just the being able to control the Warthog so much better. They also changed the layout a lot. Because there's a good portion of the Warthog run where, because of the design of the original Warthog or the speed, you couldn't make these jumps, and now you can make the jumps. Usually I would flip the Warthog a few times in the original, even after playing the campaign 50 times or whatever. But no, this time first run, I didn't even when it looked like I was gonna flip the Warthog, I didn't, because of how realistic the driving is in this game. I would actually hit the tip of my Warthog on the ground and it wouldn't flip. So that was very well done. Probably one of the best Master Chief moments in the game is the cutscene. In the original, he opens up the back of it where the ramp touches the ground, and he would go in, but not this time. This time, he actually gets into the cockpit, and there's this, one of the tank forms comes over and tries to yank Chief out of the cockpit to stop him from leaving. And there's actually like a 10, maybe 15-second fight between him and the tank form, where he's grabbing the tendrils, the assault rifle, he tries to grab, but it's behind the seat of the cockpit, and he's like, oh my god, what do I do? And he actually grabs his pistol and finally takes out the tank form. So that was a very nice addition. Very, very cool fight between the tank form and the Master Chief. Okay, so not really much to talk about with the new missions. They're pretty well done. We have three of them: boarding action, the most dangerous game, and heavy burden. Boarding action has very chill dialogue between the Chief and the Johnson. They're buddies. They've worked together for a long time, and it definitely sounds like that with the dialogue. Like I said, there's just some lines that the Chief says that he wouldn't really say at his age here. I don't know if they just forgot that, he's, this isn't from 10 or 20 years ago. This is a year before Halo 1 starts. And Johnson keeps trying to break the fourth wall. He keeps looking at the camera, he keeps smiling. A little weird. Also, everyone's complaining that it's not the original voice actor for Johnson and Captain Keyes. It's like, yeah, you're right, but they retired. Sorry, it's not like Halo Studios said, hey, we don't want the original voice actors. I'm sure they tried. And I forget which voice actor. There was actually a voice actor that came back. I don't know if it was Johnson's or no. It was Captain Keyes' voice actor for Infinite. He came back after all these years, and he said he actually He didn't like he's like afterwards he's just like, yeah, I don't want to voice act anymore. Even though he did a pretty good job in Infinite, he just didn't enjoy it. And yeah, so they're both retired. Deal with it. They're never coming back. I thought the voice actors, even though they sound different, um, especially the voice actor for Captain Keys, I don't know who it is. I've heard his voice before. A very iconic voice. Like once you hear it, you're like, "Oh my god, I know that voice," but I don't know what it's from. But yeah, both voice actors did a good job. They tried their best, and I think they did as good as they could. Yeah, the brutes are sponges and zombies. Um, so yeah, the brutes, even if you shoot them in the head, they take a lot of shots. They're not as fast as the ones in Halo 2 though when they go berserk. And the reason for that is because they're kind of like zombies. And what I mean by that is you're on the ship, which is kind of like a research facility ship for the Covenant, where they're experimenting on the elites, the grunts, and mainly the brutes. They have this like yellow gold device in their chest, like right where their heart is, and if you shoot it, it like turns them against the brute's allies, and he goes crazy. So they're kind of using the brute's like anger and trying to amplify it or something. But the way that the brutes move around, you can definitely tell that they're being controlled, or they're not themselves. And I'm not sure if I like that or not. I mean, there was a lot of brutes, but there was more jackals and grunts and elites than there were brutes. So it kind of like distracting me maybe. Very cool to see a new prophet. We saw truth and regret and mercy in Halo 2, and this time we get to see a new prophet. I don't think we learned what his name was, but yeah, it was very cool, and he got a decent amount of screen time, so it was cool to have some sort of main antagonist inside of the ship for the prequel missions, and then we get to technically move outside in the most dangerous game, where it's kind of like Pragmata if you played that, where once you get to the New York section, it kind of seems like you're outside, but you're still on the spaceship, just like you're still on the spaceship in the most dangerous game level. In this, but there's a dome, and it looks like you're outside. There's this weird floating eye that's at the top of it in the sky, and it never really gets mentioned, but it's constantly looking around. I guess it's a camera for the Prophet. I don't know. Really cool addition is you get to meet a new character. Her name is Williams. She's a lieutenant. It definitely looks like she's wearing some ODST armor, which is kind of cool. And then you get to meet her squad of Marines. I don't know. There's a lot of people that say it's woke because we have a badass female Marine. Like I don't get that, but okay. She's got tattoos, she's rough, she's tough, even the way she talks, she's a badass, she doesn't give an F. She's not impressed by Master Chief. And then randomly, like in the next cutscene, she's like, "Okay, Chief, where are we going?" So that was kind of weird. Um, but yeah, definitely wasn't expecting. I thought it was just going to be me and Johnson the whole entire time, but it was definitely refreshing to see some Marines, and especially a Marine that is more of a main character like Johnson. And then we move on to Heavy Burden. After we take out a bunch of enemies, we're like, okay, we have to get off of this ship. And sadly, Lieutenant Williams and the Marines decide to, stay back and bring the shields down of the ship so one of our main ships can take it out. So they sacrifice themselves at the end of Heavy Burden. And Heavy Burden is basically just the flying around in the Seraph ship's mission. You're going to be in space the whole entire time, taking down Banshees, taking down other Seraphs. You don't get to take down any dropships, which I think might have been a missed opportunity. I know the dropships, like, they aren't the weaponized arsenal that, like, a Phantom is, but I think it would have been kind of cool to take out some other big ships. Basically, the Seraphs, in gameplay terms, they just copied the ship from Halo Reach, the Sabers. They shoot the same way. Even the missiles, they're fuel rod missiles, and they lock on. You can dodge like you're in a Banshee, but they just copy and pasted the Saber from Halo Reach. Um, So yeah, but I mean, it was still cool to fly around in them. Um, And yeah, it ends on a high note of beauty and sacrifice with you knowing that these Marines die. You're never going to see Williams again, but just the way that the ship blows up with just it's just very juicy, the graphics and everything. So I thought that was well done. And then the cutscene ends with, Sergeant Johnson going into the ship with Master Chief and their Seraph, and he sits down in his chair, but before he has any time to rest, he gets contacted by Halsey of all people, and, she asked him, "Hey, do you think there's any other ships in the Covenant like this?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's hard to say." And she just says, "Well, hey, look at this." And then pops up on the screen that they, with the intel that you get for being on the ship, as Master Chief, puts on this thing on the main control room or whatever, and gets intel, they find out where the stronghold is of the Covenant with High Charity and what it looks like. So that was pretty cool. But overall, as this video is already an hour and 15 minutes long, overall, I would have to give this game a 7.5 out of 10. I usually don't do the whole point 0.5 thing, but I couldn't decide if I wanted to give it a 7 or 8. I was like, okay, well, let's do it 7.5 out of 10. So I want to say, while the gameplay is a bit more fun than the original, and the cutscenes are very well done, especially with Blur Studios not being involved in any way. It still feels a bit rushed with the AI and everything. Just, you just play the game. You'll be able to tell it comes out tomorrow. You'll be able to play it for free on the Game Pass. Um, and also, if you want to pay $20, you'll get the foundry or whatever thing it is, and you'll get the skins and all that, and you'll get the art book. I did take a look at the art book. It's actually pretty cool. It has some little mini stories in it if you want to read them. It has a lot of cool pictures and everything. So a very cool digital art book that came with the game if you paid a little bit extra money. Um, so yeah, this game clearly is just a test for Halo Studios with what they can do with the Unreal Engine 5 so far. Um, and unfortunately, this is what happens when you outsource the work. Once again, I don't know what the company is that did the gameplay for this game. I think Halo Studios just mainly focus on the cutscenes, and they did a phenomenal job on them. Um, but what they should have done is they should have built a dedicated team within the Halo Studios to focus on this while they focus on other things, just like what Ubisoft does. But make no mistake, I'm not saying Ubisoft is a good video game developer in any shape or form. They used to be, not anymore. But when they made good games, that's what they did. They have a studio in France, they have a studio in Montreal, they have studios in the United States. They diversify within their own company instead of outsourcing and putting trust in another company that's just going to let them down. Uh, so yeah, I don't really think it's necessary to remake Halo 2's campaign. I hope they don't. I think Halo 2 Anniversary is perfect for a campaign remake. The cutscenes are phenomenal. The gameplay is phenomenal. Um, Now with Halo 3 definitely needs a remake, and we've been wanting a remake for a long time. It would be a perfect opportunity to have PvP in it, but definitely not gonna hold my breath there. You know, I mean, yeah, it's just not gonna happen. Um, and yeah, there's another Halo video that I recorded that I was planning on posting before this, but I think I should do it afterwards. And I talk about how um it's possible that right now they actually can't make a PvP game with the Unreal Engine 5 because of how new it is for them, and they're still learning how to do things. And they don't want to risk it with the servers, and it's going to be another MCC issue where it's just broken for months. So if that's the issue, then okay, so be it. And maybe they're saving that for the Halo 3 remake. Who knows? Time will tell. But hopefully, come Halo Fest in December, we're going to get some more insight on what their plans are and all that. So that is my review of Halo Campaign Evolved. Overall, had a pretty good time. 7.5 out of 10, not too bad. Could have done a better job. It is what it is. And yeah, looking forward to what is next for Halo. We love Halo Wars 3, um, personally, but who knows? We won't find out until Halo Fest. Hopefully, something will be announced at Halo Fest. But sorry for this being so long, guys. You know, I had a lot to talk about, and I wanted to give a genuine review of the game without leaving out anything. And all that. So, look out for another Halo video coming out within the next few days here, talking about the future of Halo and all that. So, peace out. I'm going to go sleep now. Have a good one.